Excuse me, folks. We're dealing with those winds from the northeast at about 30 miles per hour in spots. Now, this was a major concern, and it really can be a huge concern when you have snow that's a little bit lighter, when temperature's a little bit cooler, and you get that kind of light, fluffy, almost dusty snow. Then you get that blowing and drifting. This is not necessarily the case today. The winds are there most certainly, and it's not great, especially with those wind gusts around 30 to 35 miles per hour. Visibility hasn't necessarily been a problem as of yet because we're seeing so much moisture in that snowfall. We're not seeing the blowing and drifting. Once it hits the ground, it pretty much sticks and doesn't move. So that is the good news there, if there is a positive with the snow that we're currently seeing out there. So wind gusts, yes, it is windy right now. It will continue to be windy up until about midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when the winds really begin to calm down, maybe dropping below that 25 mile per hour range. So we are still dealing with those breezy, blustery conditions out there. Thankfully, the blowing and drifting snow, not necessarily a significant concern because we're dealing with such a heavy kind of wet snowfall out there at this moment. Let's talk road conditions right now. Here are our current road conditions. You can see the slippery, covered, impassable. Thankfully, not dealing with much of the impassable roadways at this time. That is the good news, but certainly slippery and covered roadways a possibility, especially once you get in towards Madison. Let me see if I can zoom out there. So the north side of Madison out towards DeForest, you can see certainly snow-covered roadways. Right now, the Beltline coming in from the Beltline was not too bad. There were certainly slick spots, especially on those off-ramps and on-ramps. That's really when you could run into the really slick conditions. So if you are, say, rolling 40, 50 mile per hour on that Beltline, be mindful of slowing down, braking a little bit earlier than you would be. Again, the speed limit on the Beltline is 55. I know folks do tend to go a little bit faster. Today might be the day to slow it down a little bit, hang out in that right lane, let the folks that really want to speed by on the left lane. That is going to be a problem today. So slick road conditions, certainly a possibility area-wide at this time. You can see a lot of areas are considered good still. That's in the areas that we're not seeing quite as much accumulation. But even with minor accumulations, slick roads still certainly a possibility. So keep that in mind. Here's a look at our traffic tracker right now. And I said that with conditions being a little slick, traffic is moving a little bit slower. And you can see a lot of those yellows and oranges, especially on the Beltline, out on Madison's west side as well, up towards Middleton. Those oranges, especially east and westbound on that, north and southbound, I should say, as well. So still dealing with some slower than normal traffic, but it does seem as though traffic is moving fairly smoothly now. That may change. Obviously, it is about 2 o'clock on the dot right now. That is going to change fairly quickly. Once we hit that 4, 5, 6 o'clock hour, we're going to see a lot of more folks on the road, and hopefully a lot of folks staying at home, working from home today. We have that ability now, and hopefully that was the case for a lot of folks. I know my wife had to stay at home. We had the kiddos stay home from daycare today, so my wife's at home taking care of the kids while she's trying to work. God love her. So I know a lot of folks probably at home doing the same thing today, so God bless you, one, and two, hopefully you can stay off those roads. So a little bit on the slick side out there this afternoon, and eventually once we get to the evening, we start seeing more folks on the roads, and we start to see more of that accumulation and heavier accumulation and quicker to reach those higher accumulation totals. That's when things really could get a little bit sticky, for lack of a better term. Certainly slick out there, but roadways right now, you can see a lot of green on our traffic tracker currently. That's going to change, again, over these next few hours as we get more of that snow and more folks continue to head in from work. So let's talk timelines. When is this snow going to end? How long is it going to stick around? The good news is that it's not going to last forever. But again, over these next few hours, we really see things amp up. So let's take this out. Our future track here, starting right about now, 2 o'clock. Not much change between now and 4 o'clock. We're going to continue to see this sustained, heavy snowfall over the next several hours. Let's go to about 6 o'clock. Again, that evening commute really getting underway between 4 and 6 p.m. And, yep, that snow is still going to be coming down. So remember, when you're heading out, if you're watching this, you're at work right now, or if you're going to be out and about the area later on this evening, which honestly, in my opinion, you shouldn't be, do your best to stay home this evening. Stay off those roads until those road crews can get things cleared up for you by tomorrow morning, because by the time we hit tomorrow morning's commute, I have a feeling those roads will be good to go. Up until then, however, roads possibly not that great. So our future track here showing by about 8 o'clock, our westernmost reaches. So western and southwestern Wisconsin starting to see things maybe quiet down a little bit. Some lighter flurries, not necessarily heavy sustained snowfall. You can see out towards Platteville, as well as Viroqua and La Crosse, dealing with some quieter conditions by about 8 o'clock or so. Here in Madison, still pretty decent snowfall falling across Dane County by that time. Now here in Madison, by the time 10, 11, midnight rolls around, that's when things really begin to quiet down here in Dane County. That is the good news. We have to wait until about midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning before the last of that snowfall exits our easternmost communities and then pushes in over Lake Michigan out of the state of Wisconsin altogether. So we're going to have to wait a little while. We did adjust the projected totals. We're still expecting significant snowfall totals over the next several hours. So still up to 7 to 9 inches for Madison. Janesville up to possibly 9, maybe even more snowfall. Depends on how much of that snow we see as far as snow to rain ratio. We saw a lot of that rainfall earlier in the day. That has now shifted the snow, so we may adjust that slightly in the coming hours. But right now, keeping things where they are currently, 7 to 9 inches for Madison. Again, we're up to about 4 inches right now. And moving forward, we have another about 8 hours of this. 8, 9, 10 hours of this to go. And that's a lot of snow to still fall with some slightly cooler temperatures at that as well. So if you're wondering, hey, where's my snow? It's coming still. It's going to continue to snow, and it will continue to accumulate in the coming hours. So be mindful of that. So yes, that is exactly what we're looking at. The unfortunate news is this. Let's look at the extended forecast, because we're just getting over, well, by the time tonight, early tomorrow morning is rolling around, we'll be just getting over that very first major winter weather system of the season. We had a very quiet December. January, not so much, obviously, so far, and that will continue to be the case moving forward. So check this out. Wednesday into Thursday, so late Wednesday night into the pre-dawn hours Thursday, we could have another little clipper swing on through, and that could bring about maybe some of that minor accumulations, maybe a half an inch to about an inch of additional accumulation, a possibility on Wednesday night into Thursday. It's not necessarily going to be a significant event, but it could just add about another inch, maybe an inch and a half in spots to some areas through that period. Then we turn our attention to Friday and the Saturday. Now, models aren't exactly in agreement quite yet. In fact, we're seeing quite a big disagreement. Essentially what we were dealing with earlier on last week with the system that we're currently dealing with. Not much agreement on the exact track right now, but there are some models indicating that Friday into Saturday could be another significant winter weather system. And we're not going to talk about how much snow is headed our way, but I do want to show you just one of those model runs right now. And you can see here, this is Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you can see kind of the setup of this system. Very similar to what we're dealing with currently. That track pushing through Missouri into central Illinois, through the northern Illinois area into northern Indiana, and eventually into southern and southwestern Michigan. But watch this system. It's kind of some longer range model data, and you can see that snow continuing on, pushing off to the northeast through Saturday morning, maybe even as late as Saturday afternoon. So obviously very active in the weather center here. Not only are we dealing with all the snow that we're seeing today, but again, dealing with a lot of snow on the way potentially, and obviously we're going to keep a very close eye on all of that. But for the time being, that winter storm warning remaining in effect through early tomorrow morning. If you don't have to travel, don't. The roads aren't necessarily miserable right now, but they most certainly could be in the coming hours. So if you don't have to be on the roads, you don't have to clog those roadways with another 4 wheels, simply don't do it this evening. I don't see any questions at this time, so I tell you what, I'm going to let you go there. We're obviously going to be on at 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock this evening with continuing coverage. We're not only going to be covering the storm system closely, we'll also be covering the traffic closely. And we'll let you know exactly where those slide-offs could be, where those accidents could be, where those slowdowns could be in the coming hours as well, with more folks hitting the road for that evening commute. Keep it here at WKOW. We'll have more on this winter storm as it continues to churn through Wisconsin.